Welcome to the Farm Life Podcast, brought to you by the Kings County Farm Bureau. I'm your host, Dusty Ferentz, the Executive Director of the Farm Bureau. With us here today is Garrett, Gilcrease, KCFB's Vice President and local grower and crop consultant. Today we want to talk to you about the Mid-Kings River GSA. They had their first restated JPA board meeting yesterday. Garrett attended that for us, and we were also in court hearing arguments on our preliminary injunction against the State Water Resources Control Board's decision to place the subbasin on probation. Garrett, thanks for being with us, and will you tell us a little bit about yesterday's GSA meeting?
Yeah, so it was overall a good meeting. I think there was some concern from different members of the community about the county taking over the way they did. I think a lot of that was predicated on the original group that had the GSA, how they exited, how it was ran before. A lot of that carried over. And I'll be the first to say that the way the county is set up with 5 members of the supervisors plus 1 from the city, it gives the illusion that there might be similar things going on. But the meeting yesterday was much better, I think, in terms of being open and how they're going to do things. First one, they talked about a grower committee, which is good. We wanted a grower committee the last time consistently, and it never got filled. That was one of the top orders of business, is how we're going to do that, who's going to make that up. They even talked about exploring having a representative from that committee sit on the actual GSA board to make it a 7-member board. And so the people that were there yesterday at that meeting, it seemed like there was a little bit of a sigh of relief, right? Still yet to be seen as to how that's actually implemented. But to hear the chair and everyone else have the questions and the way they talked, it's looking like it's going to be much better for the people of Kings County and Kings River than it has been before. So, still a lot of work to do. The next meeting I want to say is a month from now, which is going to be the 3rd Tuesday of every month at the county chambers. They're supposed to have public notice or send out some sort of request for people that are interested in serving on that grower committee sent out before that meeting. Still yet to be seen how that's going to happen or how it's going to be. But it was overall a good meeting. And so I left thinking that we're in better shape than before, and we can work with these people, which is what we do. So
that's good news.
Yeah.
Did that board talk about qualifications for the grower advisory committee, or parameters, minimum qualifications to serve on that new committee?
Yeah, it kind of bounced around. There was a lot of discussion. The original proposal from the manager was that it be an 11-person board with 5 people being nominated, or nominated by an individual from the supervisors.
Okay.
And then the remaining 6 be someone like a livestock owner, a well driller, or some of them, to kind of hit these different aspects of agriculture. I think that was proposed that way, but it looks like they're going to abandon that, keep it 11 people, but they're going to open it up to anybody who wants to join, put in like an application, essentially. And then they'll pick those people from that group. And they thought that would lead them where they wanted to go, rather than just asking people to show up and, hey, Dusty, you want to be on this, without me putting something in. And talking to them after that, they thought that that would show the people that put in the application have the willingness to put in the time that's needed, rather than someone not wanting to be on it, but jumping on because they kind of feel like they were asked to. So I respected that a little bit, but it will be made up of, I think, 5 growers that either own ground or lease ground within the Mid-Kings River GSA only.
Okay.
Not only, but the example being, if you farm only in, say, South Fork Kings, and you have no ground in Mid-Kings, you can't serve on it.
Okay.
They want someone who is making decisions that will live or die by those decisions.
Right.
So that was also good too.
Yeah.
Considering how the board supervisors are made up, there's some that have a lot of big conservative GSA, some don't have very much at all. This might go to kind of nullifying what that would be.
That sounds like a better approach.
Yeah.
Good, good. How was yesterday's meeting attended? How many people from the public attended yesterday's meeting?
I'm gonna say there was probably 30,
Oh, it was a good turnout then.
maybe 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, not as much as the previous meeting where they
Sure.
kind of took everything else over, but there was enough there. And the people that were there were very, I mean, they would grow. So there wasn't a lot of county staff. There wasn't no big Kings River staff or Kings County Markets staff or anything like that before. So the people there are intimately involved with it. But yeah, it was a decent turnout considering the time of year.
Good.
So
Good.
people are busy and stuff like that.
I read the agenda, and I think the first agenda item was a discussion on the Mid-Kings River GSA's current or previously adopted policies.
Correct.
Does this board talk about those at all?
Yeah, so it was more of an overview as to, there was a plan submitted by the previous group to the state water board. There's been kind of a transition now as to that was submitted, how are they gonna A, look at that, but then B, what are we gonna take out of that to make our new plan? It was really just an overview of what was submitted and what was there. There was questions about them being policies that are enacted, like they were put together by the previous group. Are they still standing now? This new group, they are still standing now. They left it at coming to the county, register your wells to make our life easier. The meter policy, all that kind of stuff is still there, but they're kind of like get to it when you can. They didn't say that, but as far as policies and everything, it seems like they're going to want to put their own spin on things.
Okay.
In terms of the plan itself, it was a lot of just going over what was submitted, how it was built, why it was built that way. And Amir Hussein from Chico Syntec went over that. I don't think that that's going to be a direct adoption by this group,
Okay.
but they wanted to know what was already there as precedent versus, and then probably clean from that to make a new plan. So that'd be my guess.
Good. So, and then I think there was a couple of possible requests for proposal or something for.
Correct. There was requests for qualifications for initially 2 people.
Okay.
The first one was a consultant that would be like a technical consultant, I believe. I don't have it in front of me. And then the other was going to be a technical firm, so engineer. So like an engineer and an engineering firm. I don't know, those seem somewhat redundant to me, but I don't know, it's kind of weird. They talk about that a little bit, just kind of seeing what's out there. And then there was a third one that was proposed by one of the supervisors. Gosh darn, I'm forgetting what that was. But they wanted to have someone else too. And just see what's out there in terms of someone who could help. So no commitments. It was a water attorney.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was. They're represented, I think, right now by
County council.
county council. And the thought was, no disrespect, county council, but this is a very interesting area. Let's look and see if there's someone else who might need to help us. And there's a Dunn law firm.
Yeah.
Someone's last name is Dunn, who's been helping them thus far on some other issues. He said he was available. There's some other water attorneys that have kind of reached out, but they wanted to put out a proposal just to see who's out there. So those are the 3 that they're looking at.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably good news that they're not just assuming that the current technical advisors are the right people and they're going to do their homework, make sure they've got the right team put together.
Yeah, and it's not. It was explained. We want to cast in the net, see who's there. We're not making commitments. We're not, saying this is what we're going to do. They just want to know if we're dealing with this and go forward. I think that's
Good on them.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
exactly.
Sounds good. What else? Anything else from yesterday or the Mid-Kings River GSA in general that we need to talk about?
No, that was it. I think that about covers it. So going forward, we'll just see how it goes. But it's looking decent thus far.
So,
The last thing that is, I will say this. People were concerned that this was going to be, lack of a better term, a takeover by the county, and they're going to maintain this in perpetuity. At the end of it, the chairman mentioned that he wants to do everything we can to get off of probation. He said we want to make sure that people can farm as long as they can possibly farm, the best of their ability. And he mentioned 24 months that they want to have this, no more than 24 months. So he kind of alluded to this being a stopgap, and he's hoping that by that time we have a new board kind of reinstated that is made up of probably grower members and those kinds of things. And that was one concern people had, is they didn't have that. So it looks like that's at least part of the plan. So that's good.
It's good he's on the record saying that. It's nice to know that there's an end game.
Yeah, and that was one of the big concerns after the first one. Is like, just say it, just tell us what you're thinking.
Right.
But I think they're building the planes, they're flying, and they're taking this over. So if what they're saying is true, then it looks like they're looking at it in a way that is good for us and good for everybody.
Yeah, that sounds like the best possible outcome for that.
Correct.
Good news. Good.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna hang out with us for a little while and talk about the
Sure.
State Water Resources Control Board.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yesterday was a big day in the water world. Kings County Farm Bureau was back in court yesterday. We're hoping to have the judge rule on a preliminary injunction in our challenge against the state board and their decision to place us on probation. Unfortunately, she did not rule on that. She heard arguments. We were in court for about 2 hours arguing both sides for the PI. I guess the good news that came out of it, though, is the temporary restraining order that she issued on July 15th remains in effect until at least September 13th of this year.
Okay.
So that'll get us most of the way through the irrigation season without the requirement to record and report company data to the State Water Resources Control Board.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should not, well, we'll have a decision on the preliminary injunction on or before September 13th.
Okay.
As we were wrapping up the day, the judge made it sound like she plans to issue that ruling in writing well before the 13th. She said verbatim that she didn't want us to have that decision on the 13th. As we were arguing demurs and dealing with our case management study.
Okay.
So either way, we are back in court September 13th, but we're kind of continuing the conversation. We're taking the next steps. We're not still working on a preliminary injunction.
So right now it's status quo.
Right now, it's status quo.
Until no later than the 13th.
Right.
Probably before. Now, why didn't she make a ruling? Because I think everyone was assuming she would, as that was the day.
Yeah, she didn't tell us why she didn't make the ruling. I commend her for her thoughtfulness on this whole process. I think she's very thoughtful, very considerate of the arguments that are being made in writing, but also the arguments that are being orally argued when we get to go to court together. So I think it's just her way of being methodical and thoughtful about the decision. I think it shows her understanding of how important this decision is, and she doesn't want to rush to anything.
You kind of put that up against the state water board, and you knew going in what was happening there. It was just a dog and pony show. So, well, that's good. At least she's taking her time to kind of make a thoughtful decision. I hope it goes her way. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We got to give her credit for being thoughtful and considerate. And,
Yep.
we'd hate to see anybody rush to a decision, ours or somebody else's.
Correct.
Right.
So, okay. We went over this last night in the board meeting a little bit, but it might be good context here because a lot of people, like, it's legal terms, right? And you're far more in this than I am, and the lawyers really know this kind of thing. I think everyone else just knows enough to be dangerous. But, so we challenged them on probation, correct? And how they put us on probation. But that's where this is stopping right now. It's just a probationary action. I'm looking at that as that's the initial step. We're challenging the initial step, and that will slow down all the subsequent steps for us, depending on how that goes. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think that's the outcome, at least that we're fighting for. Yeah. We're not arguing whether or not SIGMA should exist. You're right. We're only arguing over the decision to be placed on probation. And really, what we're hoping to achieve here is we set aside the requirements of probation long enough that the subbasin can get a plan put together, a coordination agreement put together, and have those approved by the State Water Resources Control Board and the Department of Water Resources. So we have a plan to work on between now and 2040. And we've eliminated this draconian process and these extraordinary requirements that may come from being placed on probation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even now, for the probationary TRO that we have, you know, people go into this Gears program and it was like going to the DMV, you know, I mean, and you know, and I know with the DMV, their penalty system is set up to run like a sewing machine. But getting your information in there and paying things on time and having the mechanism to do that doesn't usually follow suit.
That's a lot harder.
This was very similar to that. So I'm looking at this as a grower as good because, you know, just like I mentioned, I don't think they had everything together. When you're at a probationary hearing, they use the word guesstimate in terms of what they're going to charge you. And they're building this program, and when has government been very efficient at anything, right? But everybody, the grower has everything to lose. I think having all their ducks in a row is really good on both sides. And so would it be fair to say that our challenge against probation is trying to force them to get their ducks in a row before they enforce Sigma?
Yeah, that's been a lot of our argument, really, is in the probationary hearing and in the resolution that put us on probation. That resolution mentions that you have alternatives to metering, for an example, but didn't spell out the process of how you get approved or who approves those alternatives. That's been, so those procedural and administrative holes, gaps have been some of the things we've been arguing on the most.
Yeah.
How can you implement a plan? How can you create a new rule and not know how to get to the finish line? And that's what we're up against, right? It's roadblocks and not much else.
A lot of gray area.
A lot of gray area.
One thing I look at Sigma from the beginning, I mean, they say you have until 2040 to be compliant. Doesn't mean you can start at 2039.
Right.
But I mean, it seems like Clear Lake Subbasin, we look at the other subsequent basins and they're going on probation, possibly based on the South Dakota. And you can have the most put together plan and they come back and say, oh, we just don't think it's enough. How can you say it's not enough if you won't let us implement a plan to show that it's not enough?
Right.
Now, after 5 years of working a plan, it's not meeting the needs of Sigma. Well, then, yeah, you have the ability or the requirement to go on and make changes. That's part of the law anyway. But I think this is a good step for us. Not only it stinks because we're the first one, but it's good in that someone is trying to push back. Because if not, I don't think they would have any need to change or incentive to change in terms of how they're implementing the law.
Yeah, of all the subbasins in California, there were initially 6 that were scheduled for probationary hearings. One of them temporarily or conditionally was removed from that possible probation list, which left the 5 of us. And you know, if we had gone last and the other 4 hadn't fought probation at all, we probably wouldn't have had the ability to fight at that point either.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate that we're first, but in some regards, I'm glad that we're first, so that we preserve our right to fight this thing. And you know, really, this has implications statewide. It's bigger than just the Tulare and Subbasin in Kings County.
Well, that's a good point because we talked last night too that you got 2 people or 2 groups of people. Some that think this is a great one. You need to fight back. I'm in that group. I think you're in that group because I feel like if you don't do anything, you get what you get.
Right.
And in reality, like we mentioned before, the law is written one way. I feel like there's a lot of aspects that are just doing whatever the hell they want. You know, how do you hold them accountable? And then you got the other group over there saying that we piss them off, we were making them angry, and now of course they're putting us on probation. But I don't see it that way because you just mentioned it. If we were the last coming into probation and everybody else just said, yeah, fine, we'll just take it, we really had no ability to fight. Right? It's done at that point.
Right.
By us being the first ones in taking this action, I feel like it's the opposite of making it worse for everybody. We're allowing them the door to fight as well, right? Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. We're laying the groundwork so that other subbasins, if they're placed on probation, have a path forward to challenge it. We're gaining some success. The first step was the TRO. We're still optimistic that we're going to get the preliminary injunction. But if we do, we've got a pretty clear path to a level of success to challenge that decision, and it's going to make it easier for anybody that comes behind us. So we've got a trail right now.
Okay.
And to your point about people that are mentioning it will making things worse. We've talked about this in this group before, but I think it's worth pointing out again. We didn't go out and look for this fight. We're reacting to what others have been. Right? We're just standing up for ourselves after we've been put on probation or we've pushed back on other local issues, but not until somebody else is drawn first blood.
Well, saying drawing first blood, it's drawing first blood, and you don't even know the rules of the game. It's
Yeah.
a problem, right? And so I think when you go into something like that, if you don't push back a little bit, there's no incentive for the state to follow their own rule book,
Exactly.
right? So, and I think that's just a very good visualization of agriculture, right? We are very pacifists, we all.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here right now. I need to be out working. Right? It's hard to make time for these things. I get it. But if you don't make time for it and don't push back and don't say and hold people accountable, and accountability is a big part of that, then you have no ability to complain.
Yeah.
Right? Zero ability to complain. And if you look at the other side of the fence, the environmental groups, I'll say it's a big one. They sue the state water board, the state. I mean, hell, every day that ends in water.
That's the business model.
And look at the way the state goes. So I mean, I don't think there's really any downside for us being able to do it until the upside. And I hope the majority of agriculture sees that.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I think that's a good enough to go out on fighting for agriculture in California.
Yep.
It's not just us; it's everybody.
Yep.
We're all of us together.
Yep.
So we'd be remiss not to mention that Kings County Farm Bureau started a Sigma Defense Fund. Fighting these legal battles against the state agency are expensive. As of yesterday, we've invested over $170,000 in just legal bills fighting this fight. A lot of credit to our supporters. Farm Bureau hasn't had to pay any of those bills out of our own coffers so far. Our contributors have covered all of our legal bills. But we don't have a cushion right now. We got a lot of bills coming our way, so we need more. We need your support. This is a very winnable battle. We can do this, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if any of our listeners want to contribute, please go to kcfb.org and look for details on the Sigma Defense Fund. Call our office, and anybody here on the team can help give that contribution. We got a long way to go. We're not halfway through this effort. It looks like our initial estimates might have come in a little low. I'm thinking now we're going to need probably $500,000 rather than the $4 we initially thought to see this thing all the way through.
Yep.
Well, Garrett, thanks for being with us today. This is a big commitment of your time. We appreciate you here and keep up the good work.
Likewise. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.